Alrighty guys, welcome back. Welcome to a new week. Today we're going to be starting Federalism. This is our second to last unit of your senior year for government. We just have Federalism to do, then political parties, and then we are finito. So let's get right to it. So, recap. We spent a lot of time, parts of last quarter, parts of this quarter, talking about these three branches of government, the legislative, executive, and judicial. You guys have done a really great job at learning which branch has what powers, what branch can do what, the different positions, how long they serve, all that different stuff. You recall the buildings, such as the Capitol building and the White House and the also White House and the Supreme Court. Now, my question for you before we started this new unit, it's a simple question. You've learned enough about government now that you should be able to answer this question. How many governments does the United States have in total? It's pretty simple, right? I'll just pretend that you answered it at this point. However, maybe it's not so simple. Maybe these three branches of government that we've been studying is just about the beginning when it comes to our nation. What if I told you that there's two different levels of government that we haven't quite seen yet? What if I told you that there is a map, a treasure map, on the back of the Declaration of Independence, the one that Benjamin Gates stole in National Treasure? Okay, maybe I might have gotten a little bit too crazy, but let me just answer the question. So, how many governments does the U.S. have? If you answered 1, you were wrong. If you answered 3, you were wrong. It's actually 89,527 total. If you did get it right, great job. Thumbs up. Okay, how can this be, Mr. Shoens? We obviously don't have 89,527 presidents. Otherwise, we'd see a whole lot less of the Don on TV. How can there be more than one government in the United States? Well, let's explore it a little bit through visuals today. Today's more introduction. Tomorrow we'll get into what powers each level has. Think of it as a pyramid. And notice with a pyramid, there's different sections of a pyramid that makes it the pyramid. We'll put national government at the top, state government in the middle, and local government at the bottom. Now, when it comes to making a pyramid, the most important part of this pyramid is obviously the top. It's the thing that differentiates it from every other shape to being a pyramid. But it also is the one that requires the less to make. Hence the national government. There's only one national government in the United States. Then underneath that is the state government. They're not as important as the national government. If you didn't see the top of the pyramid at that point and you just saw state and local government, that still would look rather weird. Or maybe rather cool. I don't know. Let me know. There's more state governments. They're not quite as important as national governments, but they are bigger. And then finally, you have your local governments, which is really the foundation of it all. They're the most numerous of all of our governments, but also the least important because they're at the bottom. So you have a national government with like presidents and army and navy and like mailing and making money and stuff like that. You have state governments which deal with driver's license and, state patrols and education and their own legislatures and marriage. And you also have local government that deals with government on a local basis, i.e. your town. Well, that's what federalism talks about. In short summary, we're going to be learning about what powers the state and local governments have, what do they look like, who is in charge of what level, all that different stuff. Because in reality, guys, there's two whole level of government that we have yet to explore. We just spent months going through the first level, national. We did legislative, executive, and judicial branch. And now we're looking at two more levels. Instead of several months, though, we're going to spend like this week and a little bit of next week. And thankfully, all these levels, state and local, also have three branches of government. More on that later. Now, there could be a question that you guys might be having at this point, which is what's the whole point of this? Why did we divide our government up into different levels? Well, here's an example for you. It makes a whole lot of sense that there's a level of government that has certain powers, and there are other levels of government that have other powers. Let's take the aspect of fighting wars. It makes a whole lot of sense that the national government has the power to declare war, raise an army and navy, and all that different stuff, because imagine how chaotic our country would be is if that power belonged to like the states or the local level. Imagine if like we were in World War II and Pearl Harbor happens And long story short, we have to ask permission of the states to declare war. How chaotic it would be to ask 50 different state governments to do it. So obviously it makes sense to give certain things to a national government. But it also makes certain sense to give certain things to local governments. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, people in Florida have a much better idea of what the people of Florida need than like North Dakota. Like, imagine if North Dakota was making a law to protect the bison, which would be a great law to protect the bison, and I'm sure the people of North Dakota would really, really care about that. But do you think people in Florida really care when there are 0 bisons in the state of Florida? Or imagine if Florida wanted to make laws to protect our beaches and stuff like that. Well, would you really want North Dakota to have any saying in that when North Dakota has absolutely 0 beaches, at least ones on oceans, not lakes? Kind of gives you a little bit of an introduction and summary as to why we need these things. Now, here is a picture that kind of illustrates where I'm talking about right here. How there are 3 branches of government on 3 different levels. So if you look at the top, you have the 3 branches of government we've studied on the national level. You have Congress and the legislative branch, you have the president and the executive, and you have the Supreme Court and the judicial. But your state and local governments also have those 3 branches of government. It just looks a little bit differently, i.e., for example, the state government's executive branch is the governor. The local level's executive branch is the mayor. More about what those actually look like later this week. So, bottom line is we have 3 levels of government. We have a national, which does the whole country. We have the states, which just does the states. And then you have the locals, which are literally your cities and stuff. One more question for you guys. Which of those is the most powerful of them all? I'm just gonna assume you answered it at this point. It's actually none of them. Well, that was awkward. Probably your bottom dollar would have been the national government. But the reality is the Constitution is supreme over all 3 of these levels of government because the Constitution establishes all 3 of these levels of government, and this Constitution also lays out what a national government can do versus a state government can do. Because it's the supreme law of the land, it goes beyond anything a national and state government does. Now, there's something else in that Constitution that you might remember that might have given you an idea of that, and that was the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution, which you can find in Article 6, Section 2 of the Constitution. This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. So think of it kind of like a ladder with this whole supremacy clause. The Constitution is the one that establishes these governments, and therefore the Constitution gives the power to these different levels of government, and therefore the Constitution is supreme. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about more specifically how that Constitution divides the powers. And if you're looking at this picture right here to my right, it kind of maybe looks a little bit familiar. We're going to be talking specifically, what does the national government get, the express powers, what do the states specifically get, and which is the reserve powers, and what's something that they both have at the same time. Those are known as concurrent powers. Anywho, that's my short, brief introduction of what federalism is, guys. Make sure you fill out the worksheet and turn it in at turnitin.com. Tomorrow we'll be talking about the 3 different powers of our government. Stay tuned.